So you want to modify your BMW G80 M3. Well, in this video, I'm going to go over everything that you need to know about modifying a car like this. Whether you have an M3, M2, M4, X3M, X4M, any car with the BMW S58 engine, we're going to go over everything. Stage 1, Stage 2, Stage 3, and more. So whether you have this car, you're looking to buy one, let's go over everything that you need to know about modifying a BMW S58. So I've already made tons of videos about this car on my channel, so if you're interested in any other G80 M3 content, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Now, I already did this exact same video for my BMW M3 40i with the B58 engine exactly 1 year ago, and that video is still one of the most viewed videos on my entire channel. So I figured I'd do the exact same video for the BMW S58 engine because I've learned a lot of things about this engine that are not only similar to the B58 but also very different. Now, this is my 2023 BMW G80 M3 and I've done plenty of modifications on it, but there's still many that I haven't done. And today we're going to go over everything that you need to know about modifying a BMW with the S58 engine, no matter what horsepower number you're chasing, whether it be 700, 800, even over 1,000 horsepower. So let's jump right into what you need to do to modify your BMW S58. So a lot of the information that I'm going to talk about in this video I got from Daryl Coleman. S58 is the GOAT over on Instagram. He is by far one of the most knowledgeable people that I've ever spoken to. If you're serious about racing and you're looking for custom wheels, custom XHP setting, and just overall help in getting your S58 as fast as it can be, I'll leave his Instagram link down below. Big shout out to him, and let's get on with the video. So a lot of people buy this car for one reason, and that is because it is highly tunable. And it's because this car comes with the BMW S58 engine. And speaking about the engine, let's open up the hood and show you exactly what it looks like. So this engine is kind of similar to the B58, although it is twin turbo. And right here is the beauty herself, the S58. Comes with about 503 horsepower from the factory, but can easily be tuned to over 1,000 horsepower. Now, before you even think about tuning this thing, there are some other options that you can actually do to increase the power in your S58 without actually tuning it, because if you don't know, this model is a 2023, and every single BMW from 2021 and up, you do have to send your ECU out to the only company in the entire world that actually knows how to crack and unlock these ECUs, which is called Femto, and they're over in Finland. Now, as of late, there are other options in order to be able to tune these things over here in the US. Keys Motorsports did have an option, but they're very expensive, and I've also heard AutoTuner also has an option, but still I think the best option is Femto unlocking, which still requires you to send your ECU over to Finland. However, you can increase the power on this thing without doing that. You can add a JB4, which is a piggyback tune, which I personally wouldn't recommend. This is basically just a plug-in with a box that kind of forces your turbo to spool faster, which is okay, and especially for the price you pay for a JB4, it's not bad. But a JB4 is never going to be better than a full tune, and I have heard people, maybe not on this car, but on other cars, have blown some turbos on a JB4, because all a JB4 does is that it basically just forces boost. So you're making your car do something that it's not supposed to do, rather than installing a new software over on your ECU to help it work with the car. You can also get a CS Flash or a CS tune, which will bring this thing up to about 550 horsepower. Now, I would only recommend this if you have a BMW M2, because not only is that car lighter, but it also comes with less horsepower from the factory. So you're going up from about 473 all the way up to 550 horsepower. That is definitely a pretty significant jump, especially on the M2 chassis. But if you have the G80 M3 or the G82 M4, since those cars are heavier, I would still recommend going all the way up to a full unlock using either MHD or boot mod, which we'll talk about later on in this video. Now, when we're talking about a stage 1 tune on this car, I would just honestly skip right over it and go straight to stage 2. And the reason is because tuning your ECU actually does void your warranty. However, I have heard the CS tune does not void your warranty, so you might want to go ahead and go with that if you're concerned about keeping your warranty on this car. But if tuning your ECU already voids your warranty, why would you just go with a stage 1? You've got to do downpipes and go with a stage 2, which is the first step in going fast in this car. You have to do downpipes, and I always recommend going catless over catted. And that reason is because you want the max airflow on this car. The only reason I see people get high flow cats is because of the sound in this car. Since this car has a twin turbo setup, this can make the S58 engine sound a little bit raspy, and so to not make it overly loud, a lot of people do keep on something like 200 cell or 400 cell catted downpipe. If you live in a state that requires inspection, catted downpipes are just fine. However, if you want the maximum performance, maximum airflow, and of course the maximum sound, then go ahead and get catless downpipe. And I kind of mentioned the second thing that you need, which is a mid-pipe. This car, since it's twin turbo and it also has 2 fuel pumps, you can see both fuel pumps back there, one right here and one right here. Those are 2 B58 fuel pumps. That means there's a lot more emissions on this car, so it does have secondary cats that you do also need to delete. But I replaced mine with a single mid-pipe from IRL, and I think by far it is one of the best sounding ones that there are in the market. I'd recommend their V2 modular mid-pipe, but I definitely think they make the best ones that there are. But do catted or catless downpipes, preferably catless, and do a single mid-pipe. I'll throw in some sound clips on this car, but it is important to note that I do still have the stock axle back. planning to upgrade my exhaust system in the future, probably still from IRO, but that is mostly for weight savings and less for sound. After that, you're all good to tune your car with stage 2. The next thing I recommend doing before you even get your ECU tuned, yes, I do recommend doing this before you tune your ECU, is getting an XHP Transmission Flash tune. I tuned my transmission with XHP before I did my ECU tune, and it made such a big difference. It made this car drive so much better than it already did because the shifts were just so snappy, so fast, and I honestly felt like I didn't even need to tune this thing. It does in fact make the car faster by removing the torque limiter, which means that yes, if you race 2 stock G80s back to back, one with XHP, one without XHP, the XHP one 1000% will win because it is shifting faster and does have a little bit more torque. It is 1000% worth the money. But if you are upgrading to this car from a G Series BMW, you can transfer over your license from XHP from the last G Series BMW, including an A90 Supra, over to your new car completely for free. All you have to do is uninstall it on your last car, email them, and that's exactly what I did, and they transferred it over from my M340 right over to my G80 M3 100% for free. Once you get it, skip stage 1 and 2 and go straight to stage 3. Trust me, you won't regret it. Before we go on, let's talk about air intakes. Now, I said in my M340 video that you don't really need intakes for modern BMWs, and that is for 2 reasons. One, the stock air box is very efficient, and I also said if I was going to get an air intake, there's only one set of air intakes that I would get, which is the front mount intakes from RK Tune. Now, these intakes are awesome. They sit at the front of the car, which are very, very far from the actual turbos. You can see that the left one, which is closest to the turbo, goes all the way over here, and the turbos are right there. You can literally see them from here. The filters are as far away from the turbos as possible so that they don't heat soak, and so they get the coldest air possible from the front of the car. But no, these air filters will not get saturated with water. You don't have to worry about your engine hydrolocking. So you got your downpipes and your midpipe, you got your air intakes if you want them, and you got your XHP transmission tune. We just said that the next thing that you need to do in order to build your S58 is to get a proper ECU tune. Now, I went through Femto. I personally just brought it to a shop. However, I did make a full tutorial on how to do it that's on my channel right now. So if you guys want to send your ECU over to Femto for less than $1,200 on an S58, you can go ahead and watch that video right after this. But I personally tuned my car on MHD, and the reason is because in my opinion, most of the top tuners are all on MHD. It's pretty split with all the fastest cars. Some are on MHD, some are on boot mod. For me, the MHD interface is a lot easier to use, but MHD also has much better OTS maps, which is what I'm currently tuned on, an MHD OTS map, and I'm sitting at almost 700 wheel horsepower with all the mods that I just explained to you, but also a flex fuel kit. This is my flex fuel kit right here, this little thing that connects to this wire, because I bought the MHD flex fuel kit, which integrates directly with your ECU. But you can't see this wire that's kind of poking out, and that is the MHD flex fuel kit that is tucked all the way back there. It doesn't matter what flex fuel kit you have on your car. If you go with boot mod, just get the boot mod one. If you go with MHD, just get the MHD one. There also is a much cheaper version called the Fuel It one. Either way, it doesn't matter. I would definitely recommend running some kind of flex fuel ethanol blend on this car. You can only go so far with air until you need more fuel and vice versa. Now, the stock turbos max out at about 30 PSI, which I'm sitting at about 29, I believe, on the MHD OTS map. So I would recommend going with MHD if you're doing an OTS map, unless you know that you're going with a custom tuner that specifically says that he works on boot mod. But if you're just doing the OTS map, or if your tuner does tune on MHD, then just get MHD. Now, if you're tuned on a custom tune with ethanol, this will bring you up to about 750 horsepower. Now, off the top of my head, there's 2 tuners that I would really recommend. One is STI Mikey. He's the GOAT. He holds a ton of records, and he really knows what he's doing when it comes to tuning cars like this. The only downside I'd say is that I heard he's a little expensive. The second tuner I'd recommend is Bend Calibration. I know a lot of people that are tuned by him. I know a lot of people that are tuned by Bend, and I've never heard a bad thing about him. Unfortunately, in 2025, 2026, there are so many bad things coming out about every single tuner, especially on these platforms, because it's just getting so competitive. Not that they're trying to screw each other over, but it's always very hard being a shop trying to balance building your own car versus building customers' cars. There's a lot of other tuners out there that I've just heard horrible things about. I won't talk about any of the things I've heard, but if you have had a negative or positive experience with any tuner, definitely comment down below and let people know. Now, your next milestone is 800 horsepower, and to hit that 800 horsepower mark, there are 2 things you could do. I've heard people have upgraded their injectors and have been able to hit 800 wheel horsepower. However, I think I'd recommend doing the second option, which is going port injection. And that's where we address our first reliability concern on the S58, the intake manifold. On all modern BMWs, it's no secret they use a ton of plastic, and this thing right here, the intake manifold, can crack with even just 30 PSI of boost. And as I just mentioned, I'm on the OTS map and I have 29 PSI. So if I go in a custom tune, I'm going to be running 30, 31 PSI, which means that this intake manifold can possibly crack and break. And it usually cracks somewhere in the back or somewhere right here where the metal meets the plastic. You probably see it a little bit better right here. The middle part is metal and the top is plastic. So between there's gaskets, there's glue, there's a bunch of things that keep those 2 things together. But the intake manifolds are a common failure point of just bolt-on cars. So in my opinion, it would be in your best interest to just go ahead and upgrade this thing. You can upgrade to a metal one. I recommend 2 of them, RK AutoWorks and DO88. If you got more money, go with RK AutoWorks. They're some of the best. That's not to be confused with RK Tunes. RK AutoWorks makes the intake manifold. But on more of the budget side, which is probably what I will go with, I've heard from a lot of people the DO88 intake manifold is probably probably the best budget intercooler for this car, because when you do that, it does come with a secondary fuel rail. So all you have to do is get the extra injectors and the wiring harness, and you can run port injection on this car, which will bring you up to about 800 wheel horsepower. Now at this point, you should have been experiencing traction issues a long time ago, so it might be in your best interest to upgrade your wheels. The stock wheels on the xDrive cars come with 19s in the front and 20s in the rear. I would definitely recommend at least upgrading the rear, because this car, my G80 M3, is xDrive. However, xDrive is rear biased, which means it does send 60% or more of the power to the rear wheels. And nowadays, everybody's trying out the Alibaba wheel methods, so I definitely recommend getting at least some kind of cheap wheels in this car. Definitely forged though, because the stock wheels, if you didn't know, are already forged, so putting anything less than that is just going to make the wheels heavier and make the car slower. I'm probably going to go with the 19 setup all around, or an 18 in the back and 19s in the front, because the faster you make the car, the thicker the tire you need in order to put that power to the ground. More tire equals more grip, not just the width, but also the height of the tire. A set of aftermarket wheels is probably going to be my very next mod on this car, so make sure you hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for that. But I'm also going to be getting a set of bead locks for the rear. Now, okay, you've done almost everything that there is to do on your S58, but there is still one thing you didn't do, and that is a turbo upgrade. Everybody on these cars seem to be going for a single turbo setup, which I think is the best setup, because obviously a bigger turbo is going to produce more power. Your other option is a hybrid turbo setup, which is an upgraded version of a stock turbo. It sits in the stock location down there, and hybrid turbos have bigger fans on the inside and larger compressors, but I would only go with a hybrid turbo setup if you still want this car to handle good, because then you could just have a custom map where you turn the boost all the way down and the car will still basically drive like a stock car. So if you want this thing to still handle like an M car should, then don't do a big turbo setup. But if you do want to get the maximum speed in a straight line, you've got to go with a big top mount turbo kit, and that big boy will sit right here. You guys have all seen the videos on the internet. Every single G80 M3 nowadays seems to be single turbo. Single turbo setups are very expensive. I want to say the cheapest kit is like 10 grand, but not every single turbo setup is made equally. I know from looking online, I know from researching online that KLM makes one of the best setups on this car, but if you go to the website and check every single box that they have, that will run you over $14,000. That is a lot of money to pay for a single turbo conversion, because at the end of the day, it's not just a turbo upgrade, it's a turbo conversion. You're taking a twin turbo car and making it single turbo, which means you're paying for a turbo, a manifold, and everything else you need. Some people buy cheap single turbo kits and only make like 800 wheel horsepower. I would never upgrade my car from 750 wheel horsepower with a custom tune for all that money to only get 50 more wheel horsepower. That to me makes zero sense. Getting a single turbo on your G80 M3 just to make 800 horsepower is so dumb, because while on paper your car might be a little bit faster, it's going to feel so much slower because that bigger turbo is going to need more time to spool up. And for only 800 horsepower, that's just not worth it. If you're going to get a big turbo, go big or go home. Get a single turbo setup that's capable of 900, 950, 1000 horsepower plus. With a good single turbo setup, you can crack 1000 wheel horsepower. You finally did it. You've got 4-digit wheel horsepower on a family sedan, and you did that all with a stock engine and stock transmission. Now I will say, if you are dynoing at over 1000 wheel horsepower, it is doable and it can be fairly reliable. You just can't beat on the car all the time. But if you are pushing too much boost on that single turbo setup, you can experience some problems with your transmission and with your engine internal. To remedy this, I would obviously upgrade my transmission or do something like drop-in rods, ARP head studs, all of the fancy stuff that I don't know too much about when it comes to building engines, but there are a bunch of very simple things that you can do to build your engine and make sure that that 1000 wheel horsepower is running reliably. Personally, if I was running the biggest big turbo setup, I would probably keep it down to about 950 wheel horsepower and just have a kill map of over 1000 like everyone else does. But just be careful with that 1000 wheel horsepower, because there have been people that have pushed their boosts a little bit too far and have blown their engine. So good luck in building your 1000 wheel horsepower BMW S58. My name is Ryan, S58NY on Instagram and TikTok. Make sure you subscribe, because in the next video, we're going to be tuning this thing, taking it on some highway pulls and some draggy runs. I'm Ryan from Gears and Gains. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.